Fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you a story so you can all relax. It's going to be a quick story, quite furious. But it's a story about what's truly possible to achieve together. And one word that Joris missed out in his introduction is, I know I'm the first person in history stupid enough to have walked to both bloody poles. You've got to be a bit stupid. 900 miles to the south, 700 miles to the north. And if you are that person, and I am, I guarantee you that the man standing here is only sure of 4 things forever. First and foremost, I'm sure I hate walking. I've done enough. Secondly, the coldest day I've ever been in, minus 82, ice forms inside your clothing. So I'm fairly sure I do not enjoy having ice in my underpants. I'm working on it. Thirdly, no insurance company on earth has got the courage to give me life cover. No one will cover me. And lastly, which I find irritating, most people say to me, before we take on a mission, Rob, you're going to fail. Rob, you're going to die. And I'm here to tell you a story about what you can achieve by being positive. But to reflect back on this morning, at the age of 11, check out my haircut, my mother was sick and tired of me saying, I'm going to walk to both poles, Mum. And she said to me when I was 15, a good piece of advice. She said, Rob, if you want to do this, understand one clear thing, that women run everything. It's true, and the story you're about to hear now reflects on that. So it began as a dream. My dream was to walk from the edge of the Antarctica to the South Pole. Quite a big place, Antarctica, if you put the United States of America on it. And 3 of us undertook this journey. No radio communications, no satellite equipment. 380 pounds on each sledge, 9 hours a day, 7 days a week, 70 days in a row, and I lost 72 pounds in body weight on this journey. As we march, we must trust each other fully. And here you can see we're walking across crevasses. If those crevasses open up, you go down, you don't come home. Trust, absolutely key. We're now standing in an area the size of the United States of America. And we're entirely on our own. Can't ring up Mummy for help on the iPhone 5. We're alone. We're trusting each other. We're standing in this picture on 16,000 feet of solid ice. 90% of all the world's ice is in Antarctica. 70% of all the world's fresh water. Not a good idea if we melt it. And after 70 days on foot, we arrived at the bottom of the world. It was a great moment. We'd done what people said could not be done. And I say, we did it, not me. And we arrived at the South Pole. We had 5 minutes of celebration at the United States Scientific Station. And then the news came across that our little ship had been crushed by ice 5 minutes before we arrived at the South Pole. Just the sort of thing you want to hear when you've walked 900 miles in 70 days. Fantastic. Now, my patron for this expedition was a man who I loved and respected more than most, Jacques Cousteau, fantastic guy. And Jacques Cousteau asked me to do something before this expedition. He said, Rob, at the end of your journey, take away all of your garbage, all of your rubbish. Leave Antarctica tidy. Bit of a problem, the ship sunk, and I've got 60 tons of equipment on the edge of Antarctica. I think one thing that's very clear about good leadership in life, if you say you're going to do something, do it. And I am proud to say that we stayed another year in Antarctica. Another ship came down, we cleared the rubbish, we did the job. And I'm proud of that. Something happened to me walking to the poles that brought me here. My eyes changed color in 70 days. Our faces fried off. We had no idea why. Well, we walked under the hole in the ozone layer the year it was discovered. Bit of a shock. Unfortunately, Unfortunately, we now must head north. I say, unfortunately, I'd made a commitment to walk to both poles, and sadly, we now have to do that. This would be hard. This time, we walked 700 miles across a frozen ocean of ice. And ladies and gentlemen, you might be thinking that this is kind of macho man stuff. It's not. If you think you can take on these places, you die. It's sensitivity, care, respect, humility, even love for each other that gets you through. As we march, we can also be eaten by the polar bear, another added advantage to North Pole travel. Interestingly enough, I would seriously like to take many people from many nations who still say that climate change is not happening, and they can join this polar bear on an iceberg and then have the debate. In 20 years, the polar bear has gone from unendangered to endangered. We need to listen to that. 20 years ago, we had plenty of ice. Here's me coming in from washing at minus 65 degrees. Gentlemen, you will notice clearly that there is nothing hanging down in the central area of the photograph. It is your job, gentlemen, to explain to our esteemed ladies later why this happens to a man naked at minus 65. It's down to you. Even 20 years ago, imagine it, we are 700 miles from land. No radios, no CNN camera crew filming us. Remember, we're British-led. And suddenly, without warning, the entire ocean beneath our feet melts 4 months before it ever had. We have a desperate struggle to stay alive, but we stay alive. We reach 90 north. And it's a proud day for me to stand here, because the flag we chose to fly is still a really important flag here on planet Earth. We've done it, not me. I was invited to the first ever United Nations Summit on the Environment, and there, unfortunately, I met Jacques Cousteau again. And he said, Rob, what are you doing for the next 50 years? He gave me a 50-year mission 22 years ago. 28 years to go on that mission. Because in the year 2041, the treaty that preserves Antarctica can change. I think we should leave one place alone on Earth forever. At that first World Summit, we also made a commitment to young people and to the world leaders. We would do a global mission and a local mission lasting 10 years, and we would come back and see all the world leaders 10 years later. Our global mission took us to the Antarctic. Young people, 35 from 25 nations. Unfortunately, they saw 1,500 tons of garbage left in Antarctica by the former Soviet Union. And the young people said, Rob, could you move it? Unfortunately, I said yes. This took 8 years of our lives, 8 years, $12 million that had to be raised. Joint cooperation with the Russian government, which was complicated but necessary. We took down a ship after 8 years of collecting all the metal, and I'm proud to say that we recycled all of that back in the country of Uruguay, South America. So I have every right, and I abuse it, to say to young people, if we can do this, you might just manage, I know it could be exhausting, to move the arm with the can and drop it in a recycling bin. After 8... This was a great day. The penguins came ashore onto their clean beach, global mission done for the world leaders. We now hear that they're getting together for the second ever World Summit in Johannesburg. We go back to the wonderful country of South Africa. We join with a fabulous youth organization, all about the issue of AIDS. Put our yacht on the trailer and make the longest overland voyage ever made in history. This was fantastic. We took the yacht to see kids who'd never seen the sea. They'd never seen a boat, never seen a red Englishman. And they came out, 750,000 young people. We arrived at the Second World Summit. World leaders pitched up, a bit more awake this time, with all respect. And I made a commitment that we would come and see the world leaders again for the Third World Summit. And the challenge would be that to save Antarctica, I realized I had to be more than a garbage collector and a penguin polisher. I had to make sure that Antarctica financially wasn't worth exploiting. How do you do that? Use more clean, renewable energy in the real world, and it'll make no financial sense to go to Antarctica in 2041 to exploit it. So I became now a renewable energy champion. Our dream was an education station running only on renewable energy in all 7 continents. I don't have a home, but we've got a fantastic old battleship yacht. Her name is 2041, and she would visit running on renewable energy to every continent on the planet. So this was the plan. This is not a United Airlines, flight plan. This is 8 years at sea, 187,000 nautical miles for any sailors here. No wonder I'm wobbling a bit here. But anyhow, we went round the world several times showing young people how renewable energy works. I put that one in to show that we cruised past, not far from here, in New York City. And every year we go to Antarctica. Every year. And I take young people, business people from all over the world down there just for 2 weeks. We get together in South America, and I have a huge, huge passion and commitment to that great nation, India. Remember my mum, 98 next week. I'm her 7th child. Imagine having me as number 7. When my mum was born, the population of the planet, 1.8 billion total. That's only 400 million more people than there are in that great nation, India, today. So I have a huge focus on trying to inspire young people, all the wonderful talk of entrepreneurial spirit, also in China. That's why I'm not very English-colored. I've lived in India and China for the last 5 years. That's the front line. 3 billion people on Earth. We've got to support them to get it right, but they've also got to grow. We go south on a beautiful ship. We see where the great ice caps are melting. Every year, that ice gets less and less and less. I see it every year. And I'm proud to say that we ran the first ever TEDx from Antarctica, only running on renewable energy. That was harder than walking to both poles backwards in your underpants, but we did it. And to engage with this beautiful place, that last true great wilderness left on Earth, is a privilege. It really is a privilege. And these young people, these business people, join together, come back as champions. And we've built that first education station in Antarctica, only running on renewable energy. This is my home for a month every year. Hot water, heat, light. Check out the plastic flowers, girls. The efforts are made here. It all runs only on renewable energy. And if we can do it there, we could do it here more, for goodness sake. And as I say, we're on the way to the Third World Summit. Check these 3 red dots. It made sense, did it not? That the First World Summit was in Rio de Janeiro, the second one was in Johannesburg, and the third one, for 9 years, was planned to be in Singapore. That was the plan. And here's 8 years of sailing around the world to get to that Third World Summit. That was the plan. And on the way, we would visit India. But one thing I'd like you to remember from this little story is stay relevant. It's very easy in our world to think that we're being relevant. Have occasionally a little check to see if you are still being relevant. And I thought about taking the yacht to India, and it would get lost in 28 years of customs forms filling in Mumbai. So I thought, let's be relevant. So got on the bike. And last year did 3,000 miles on a bicycle around India, which is a lot more dangerous than polar travel. If you can see carefully, you'll understand why I like India. Check the color of the traffic light. It's red. I like that. And in India, we built our second education station at a tiger reserve. Hundreds of thousands of young people coming in, being inspired, and seeing that renewable energy can work. Then, a bit more biking, and 2 weeks ago, we set up our third e-base right at the northern tip of India in Ladakh. And there, our team, and Stephanie Wilcott's here. Thank you very much, Stephanie, for introducing me to these maniacs here. She was there, and our team went, and this was fantastic. E-base number 3, and we visited this village. It was so amazing that doesn't have electricity. Tonight, you should sit in the dark for an hour and know how it feels. This little boy, first time he'd ever seen electricity. It was fun to help them and make an effort there. So, we're on the way to that Third World Summit, Singapore. Our captain is about to mutiny because we don't have any money. And I tell you what, we're just coming in, and then the world leaders change the venue back to Rio. 94 days at sea, but if you make a promise, deliver on it. We came through some storms, turned the Cape of Storms off South Africa, and we got to the Third World Summit 2 days before it was about to start. And of course, many of the world leaders, no names mentioned, didn't bother to turn up, but we got there, and we were proud of that. And it was exciting to see how entrepreneurial spirit and business were starting to come through much stronger on the whole issue. Do you know something? The hole in the ozone is fixing itself because we got the policy right 22 years ago. The Montreal Protocol started to stop CFCs. Bang, the hole in the ozone's fixing itself. And finally, bit more walking necessary. Why not? Do you know something? Taking risks, calculated risks, are important. And 30 years on from when we reached the South Geographic Pole, we're going back to the South Pole, and we're retreating our steps of 30 years before to the edge of Antarctic, nearly 1,000 miles on foot. But this time, we're going to take some risks. We're going to only survive off renewable energy, something no one's done before. We need to push the technology for us to survive in Antarctica. We all need to push the technology of renewable energy for us to survive here on Earth. But thank goodness the wind hopefully will be blowing in the right direction, and this time we'll be able to use some kites so we can go a little bit faster. And my son, who's 19, he's willing to join me, Barney. He's taking that risk. And we're recruiting, as I speak, 2 fantastic ladies to join us, an international team. We're going to make that journey. It's going to be hard work. Ladies and gentlemen, Jacques Cousteau said something to me 22 years ago. He said, Rob, focus. He said, focus on one thing and you will deliver something. Don't go too much out. I hope I've learned that lesson. I ask you, when you leave here today, to focus. And never forget, if you can do or dream you can, begin it now. For boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. Good luck to you all. Thank you very much.
Yeah, come on.
Thank you very much.
Robert.
Thank you.
Robert, I think everyone now wants to do something, which is fantastic. And there are also thousands of people online, and they also want to do something. Yeah. And so, what can they do practically to help you now?
Well, I hope that as a team here and that virtual team out there, you know, we're seeing some fantastic stories today, and we're going to hear even better stories today than we've heard already. You know, there's some fantastic people. And I think what's really important is that when we come away from here, we pick one or two people that we're going to work with and we persist with them. Not just send a quick email saying, absolutely marvelous, well done, and then it disappears. But no, grip it, work with those people and really make a difference. I think that's what we should do here. I think people out there, in their own way, should not feel pushed down by it. It's a year since Hurricane Sandy had a go at this building. It was beaten up, this building. It's a year ago. Look what's happening in Colorado. Look what's happening in Yosemite. People are starting to realize or think this is all closing in on them. What can they do? Don't panic, is my suggestion, right? Get out there and make a difference step by step. That's my view.
I think this perseverance thing, and I imagine hundreds of thousands of people are trying to be like you and not giving up. And in a way, it's much easier to give up if you're not walking through an ice desert, because where do you go in an ice desert? But still, there are these points when people are about to give up. And some people watching this, maybe some of you, will be in that position. So what do you do to keep yourself going at this astonishing pace and with such vigor?
I think the thing is to think where we are. We're on this tiny little planet in the middle of a universe that goes on forever, and there's more stars up there than there are grains of sand on every beach. So we owe it to do our best while we're here. All we are custodians of this place. And I think that, you know, people can get a bit down. They need to stand up and get counted. Change everything now. Because if we don't, what's going to happen? People not born yet are going to go, what was wrong with those people?
That's right. And so what's next?
I think it's more complicated by the sound of things, you guys and girls going for lunch, than it is walking to both poles. So I wish you all the best of luck and maybe see you somewhere in the building as we go on.
That's right. I think, Robert, you'll be around for the next of the day, won't you? Yes. So come up to him, connect him, make eye contact with him, perhaps even in a creepy way. We'll see you again at 2:30.